Have a great panel, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
So welcome everybody. This is a great day, and I hope that this will be the best panel of this day, because today and in this panel we are especially exploring the Bitcoin's exciting role in Finland's political, economic, and regulatory landscape, and of course future. So it's very super hot topic. My name is Thomas Brand, and I lead institutional sales at Coinmotion, and I'm acting as the moderator for the panel. And especially, we have a great group of panelists today. So on my left side, I have Mr. Martin Paasi, MP from the National Coalition Party, extensive experience from the capital market side, financial markets, and also was one of the very few ETF launches in Finland, namely OMX25, my old colleague from Nordnet, popular host of Rahapodi. Next to him, we have Mr. Tere Sammallahti, an MP also from the National Coalition Party, and he calls himself crypto-positivist, whatever that means. But he's one of the very first politicians using social media very effectively and proactively, and very vocal also on the Finnish political side. And next to Tere, we have Samuel Kullman, a politician and political scientist from Switzerland, and member of the parliament in Canton Bern. He's a regular speaker in various conferences and also advocate for nation-state Bitcoin adoption. And last but not least, Jaakko Kaijala, the co-founder of Nordic, a Finnish company working with flexible, controllable compute loads, sectoral integrations, and energy markets. And so, let's kick it off. We have a lot to discuss, little bit of time, just a couple of house rules, short answers, no overanalysis, keep answers concise. And if we have any time, let's pick some audience questions, but let's keep that open. So let's park this here and start with warm up. So, is Bitcoin net positive or net negative? Does it have good or bad consequences on society? Let's start from Martin.
Remains to be seen.
Well, as I said, I'm crypto positivist, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be positive.
I would even remove the word net. I mean, I don't see almost no negative side, except if you're a dictator or some authoritarian politician, then it's quite bad for you.
If you value freedom and the optionality of using a monetary system that is outside of the central banks, I see it as a net positive.
Great. So let's move on. Let's have the first theme of today. So the Finnish Bitcoin policy, and especially that, how do you see that? What would be the most realistic and beneficial way for Finland to adopt Bitcoin? And if you have any examples like about concrete things that could be done, that would be very, very nice to hear. So let's start from Tere this time.
Well, maybe I'll take the side of energy industry, given my latest job was from the building industry, and I think we can enable this, let's say Bitcoin or crypto, whatever you like it. We can enable the basic infrastructure here. We have the cheapest energy, well, the electricity in Europe and so forth, and we have quite stable. Well, to a point of frustration, to a stable regulatory environment. So I think those are like two concrete things that we can build on.
And Jaakko, what do you think?
I think everything starts from education, getting people to understand what Bitcoin is, how does it work as a monetary unit, but also from the energy industry side. What kind of benefits can this flexible computing service have that can be turned on or off at any given point of time?
And Martin, what do you think?
Well, I think Tere was touching the topic already, but basically as a means to even out the electricity prices and perhaps most of all to sort of grab the benefit of low electricity prices where there is no otherwise would be any demand for it. So it's a way of sort of grabbing the economic value of a low electricity price situation.
And Samuel, you come from Switzerland, and Switzerland is one of the biggest Bitcoin related hubs. We have a lot of companies and a lot of activities. From your own personal experience and the political experience, how do you see, for example, the risks and opportunities of adopting Bitcoin more broadly and especially as a strategic asset?
Risks are actually only there, or almost only there, if you lack education. If you make mistakes, like I did when I first started learning about Bitcoin, and you don't really know what you're doing, then there are risks. But once you do the study, once you do the proof of work, the research, then the opportunities, they are like 100 times bigger than the risk from my point of view. And I'm glad that Switzerland has been quite open, maybe more than the international average, and in promoting Bitcoin adoption, having a decent regulatory framework, but at the end of the day, it's also in local parts or at the individual level where adoption happens. So from the state side, there hasn't been too much yet, which I think is unfortunate, because if the state is following a pro-Bitcoin strategy, then the incentives are aligned with the values and what Bitcoiners want, and this is what I also desire for politics to happen.
And to continue with about that, Samuel, so do you think that it's beneficial or something that we should think about, that should the state and public actors hold Bitcoin in their respective treasuries?
So I know there's a big debate amongst Bitcoiners about these topics. There's the camp that says, no, Bitcoin is cypherpunk, it's for individuals, and we want to abolish the state and go full anarcho-capitalist. And I understand where they come from. But I think the more realistic approach would be to say, yes, we also want nation-state Bitcoin adoption, because if the if the shit hits the fan, if the fiat system starts to crumble more and more, then a state that already has a strategic Bitcoin reserve will be in a less desperate position. And maybe you as a Bitcoin, you say, well, you can leave the country with your seed words in your head and with your brain wallet and go to El Salvador. But maybe not everyone wants to leave the country they love and they were born in. So it's better if the state's interests are also aligned with Bitcoin, I believe.
And Tere and Martin, what do you think about this state level possible adoption? For example, a couple of years ago, the Finnish customs sold bitcoins, and for example, what they have confiscated. Of course, it was an act that had to be done because the customs is not an independent agency on itself. So, what do you think more about what Jaakko was talking about education, and also what Samuel was referring to, this kind of more positive and pro-Bitcoin attitude also at sovereign level?
I think it's extremely important that the awareness is spread around, and the depth of the awareness continues to grow. But perhaps more specifically, I think Bitcoin has been launched in the human development history in perhaps the most right times ever, because during the last 10 years or so, Nobel laureates and economically very high-level professionals have been discussing that, the situation with the US dollar, and they started questioning whether or not it's still sort of a viable safe haven, so to say. And for example, in the last big financial crisis, we saw market behavior that was very atypical to the markets typically. I mean, people were selling everything. And it was sort of the question arose that, was this the canary in the mining business giving a first sign that when shit hits the fan, will actually the USD be a safe haven or not? And of course, the concern is related to the fact that the US debt has doubled during the last 10 years. So if there's no stop to that, it seems to some extent inevitable that there might be problems down the road. And then, of course, Bitcoin might have a surge never seen before.
So Tere, if you would be the finance minister and having this crypto positivist attitude, what is the first move to do?
To stay out of the way, right? So no better way to screw up good concepts than include a state to it. But I kind of agree with Samuel here that there has to be some kind of regulation, obviously, and some kind of knowledge about the whole Bitcoin ordeal and what it can bring and what it can basically take. I'd like to see the states kind of. I guess it's more about talking about, well, what should state own and how much. And there are certain instruments we need to have in the state books, and then some things that we don't. Bitcoin might be one piece of it, but kind of like not in the maximalist way, if you will.
So we have heard that Finland is especially like interesting from the energy market perspective when it comes down to Bitcoin as a flexible load. We heard a little bit what Martin was talking about, this kind of global and macroeconomic and geopolitical situation, little bit from Samuel's side that constraints and rules and mandates are needed. So let's move on, and that takes us to the question that what are other countries actually doing? So what are the lessons, Samuel, that Finland could, for example, learn from other countries, such as Switzerland, when it comes down to Bitcoin and crypto asset policies?
So with Lugano, we have like this showcase. It's like a proof of concept. It's in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. In October, there's a fantastic Plan B forum conference, very high profile, and where they have about 350 merchants already accepting Bitcoin in a quite small town. And so having these proof of concepts, I think, is really important. So you can really prove how it works. And then we have one canton, Canton Zug, where in 2021 you were able to start paying your taxes in Bitcoin, which was converted to the Swiss franc, but still it just shows, okay, this is to normal citizen. It was like a sign the state is taking this serious. And in my own canton, I put forward 4 bills to promote like proactive Bitcoin strategy. 1 was passed, 3 were quite narrowly rejected. And bringing Bitcoin to the parliament, to politics, I think is a very important step to just normalize the discussion, to show people this is not some crazy like magic internet money anymore. It's like it's here to stay. It's here for the real world. It has a huge potential, and we're in a race. I mean, we need to be aware that there will be a nation-state Bitcoin adoption race. Right now, we're more in the process where the companies, the treasury companies have started, El Salvador, Bhutan, that are actively acquiring Bitcoin. It's not the big bang yet of nation-state adopting Bitcoin. Or that race has not really started yet, but I believe it will start in the next couple of years. And I think it's of geopolitical strategic importance to not get left behind.
And Martin, so which of those, like a lot of lessons, like what could be done, like to showcase how it works? Jaakko referred to education in the earlier theme. What could be realistically done? What could work here? What could we do?
I think that it's the most critical thing is that enough people start to use Bitcoin as means of payment. Until that happens, it's a really interesting speculative investment. But immediately when you have the critical mass that starts using Bitcoin in payments, it will sort of slow down or even out the fluctuations of its value, and it will become sort of a self-fulfilling thing, and it will be practical to actually use it for payment. So when the more people start using it as a payment, it will sort of even out the fluctuations, which is sort of critical for the usage, everyday usage of Bitcoin as for payment. I think that's absolutely crucial.
And Martin, to continue with that, is Bitcoin or crypto assets in more general, are there in any way or in any shape or form on the government's agenda, in addition to the fact that government needs these tax and capital gains from those assets?
Well, it hasn't been that much, but as it so happened, I think it has been published just a few minutes ago that the government is gonna, according to the information I've received from the Minister of Economic Affairs, Mr. Sakari Puisto, he's arranging a roundtable discussion for industry representatives in October, together with officials from Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Employment. And the aim here is to sort of gather a shared situational awareness, discuss growth opportunities, risks, all these kinds of things. So to my knowledge, this is the first step towards sort of recognizing what's going on. It's terribly late, but at least something.
And Jaakko or Tere, anything to add?
I would say it's not late, and very happy to hear that this kind of initiative is going on. I think Finland has the opportunity to be the Bitcoin country in Europe.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there are in the parliament there are like few enthusiasts, maybe 10 or 20 who actually know something about the subject, and then the rest don't really have it on radar. And I guess it's our job to raise the awareness in the parliament too. It needs to be done everywhere, obviously, but.
So we learned a little bit from the Switzerland's examples, and of course, like these are not like kind of a models, not plug and play, but at least like things are happening, and what we could learn. We got news what Martin mentioned about this industry like roundtable that the Minister Sakari Puisto is planning to organize. So this actually like also raises these kind of real world constraints. So how, for example, like infrastructure policy, taxation, things like that also affect adoption in Finland. So the first question is related that what role should taxation play in mining or any kind of other computational loads in Finland especially? Jaakko, please go ahead.
I think the taxation in any aspect, even if it's like computing Bitcoin or income tax, should be as low as possible to incentivize people to work or invest. If we take a look at the flexible load situation, so Finland has been investing, or Finland is ahead on this green transition into renewable energy sources. So we've faced the challenges before other countries. And what we see is that there's an increase in volatility in the energy prices, but also these renewables create stress on the grid. So the grid has to stay on a certain frequency level, so the production and demand have to match. And for example, Bitcoin mining is a perfect solution for that, to create a base price for these energy producers, but also it's an business that can be turned off at any given point of time. So if there's a cold winter day, no wind, the Bitcoin miners can turn off and release the energy they previously reserved basically to other network participants to stabilize energy prices.
Yeah,
short comment. 95% of the Finnish electricity is green, or sort of no pollution at all. And there is a roadmap to double the 83 terawatt hours within 10 years, the production of electricity of 83 terawatt hours within 10 years. And in order for that to happen, we need to have buyers of electricity. And this general discussion that is going on about the AI-driven data center investments into Finland is really, let's not go into that. It's a headache. But the point is that in order for the Finnish electricity production, the green electricity production, to double, we need buyers. And we shouldn't sort of pick on who buys the electricity, because we need something to stabilize, because it's like you have buyers making investments, demanding electricity, but you have also the green electricity producers on the other hand who needs to have a price in order for them to be profitable in doing this, raising the production capacity. And in this sort of, in order to align these two, the buyers and the producers, I think that the Bitcoin is the mining activity would be absolutely perfect.
Tere?
Yeah, to maybe add something to both of those. We have two the electricity taxation classes, the upper one and the lower one, and now we have decided that the data centers will hop from the cheaper one to the more expensive one. But we've been talking about we have the whole environmental issue, and then we have the demand issue and everything, and we kind of have to juggle with the variables that how we want to figure this thing out. And I think at this point, mostly people agree that the kind of like suggestion that the data centers, including mining, could be in the lower bracket, but only if they pump the excess heat, so the district heating networks, or we have the adjustability clause in the sopimus contracts and everything. So we have plenty of options. I think we haven't really figured it out yet. But as Martin said, we need the demand to boost the supply. So that's another, like, we have basically the most the cheapest energy in Europe.
Energy.
Hmm?
Green energy.
Green and low emission too. So kind of like we can pump the price up a little bit if we can aggregate this kind of business on top of that.
Yeah,
That's
just
and
add one point to that. So when increasing energy production, and if it's renewables, it's going to vary a lot. How much do they produce on a certain time of day or depending on weather? So that needs to be matched with a certain type of consumer that can adjust their load based on that. And what Finland can do is that with this new green renewable energy that is coming online, instead of building transmission lines to Estonia or Sweden, for example, we can turn that cheap energy into hashes and then take it through basically internet connection to the outside world and get revenue that way.
That's very, very intensive about the energy markets and mining, but especially to you, Samuel, that you have experience from Europe, especially from Switzerland, when it comes down to also that what kind of policy setups and policy designs there are. We are now talking about very niche topic, very big question, but very like specific about the flexible loads. But how do you perceive like from the larger perspective that how can, for example, like this kind of pro Bitcoin attitude from the state side and also more generally like help to, for example, like attract top talent? What are the tools that you see that would be beneficial for us to look at?
I think taxation is a very important point, and taxation should be in a way that it's easy, especially that it's easy to spend Bitcoin, that there are no capital gains tax. At least maybe if politics says, well, we want that, but that there be a certain threshold at least. And I think that would attract also people. And generally, a decent tax burden would make a country really attractive for Bitcoins, because there are countries that are going full socialist, that are just societies breaking down where things are going really bad, and the number of Bitcoiners is increasing, but they are looking for options. A good friend of mine, Joanna Kotta, used to be in the German parliament. She says, I'm willing to stay 4 more years in Germany, but if things continue to go down like this, then I'm leaving. And there will be Bitcoiners who will be looking for options. And if you can manage to make your country attractive, just the way how society works, tax-wise, for Bitcoiners attractive, I think you'll have fantastic brains. You'll attract capital. You'll attract great minds, entrepreneurs, and that will be very beneficial.
So the policy questions always they're very like tricky one. We talked about about the mining and the flexible loads in general, that how they could be beneficial. What Jaakko was referring to. Also Tere and Martin, like it seems that you have actually cracked the nut. You really seem to understand that what the flexible loads are all about. But as was referred, that it's a tricky one. One question, Tere, from you: that has it actually been published and decided like yet that the data center taxation is coming out as it has been planned by the Ministry of Finance?
Well, I think it kind of was last spring when we were deciding about the cuts and everything. But I think the situation has lived a bit in the parliament, so I don't really have the updated information how it's going to be. But well, I think me and Martin will be doing some work to at least get a decent outcome out of all of that. So
sounds awesome. So this brings us to the last topic, that lot of discussion about the electricity markets, geopolitical situation, what Martin was referring to, Tere doing the groundwork together with Martin, Samuel's examples from this kind of pro-Bitcoin policy. So to the last question and the last thing that I want to discuss with you is politics and acceptability. You are two experts here, of course, and also we have foreign experts, so 3 experts plus 1 from the business side. So what is the biggest political hurdle for Bitcoin's acceptability in Finland? And just one word. Let's go from Martin's side.
Concern for the environment.
That's great. Tere?
education.
Samuel?
Fear.
Jaakko?
I have to agree with Tere that education is the most important.
So to education, fear and environmental issues, I think that they're pretty same. So how should Bitcoiners or the crypto positivists like frame Bitcoin to avoid this kind of siloed optics that many times are accused around Bitcoiners, and instead present it as a neutral savings technology, grid balancer, or settlement network? What are the things that could be done to actually like to have the rhetorics and these kind of talking points more like positive? Let's start from Samuel.
I believe that there's not like one way to frame it. Many Bitcoiners say, well, it's so difficult. I'm so alone in my environment, my circle of friends, so few Bitcoiners. It's so difficult to get the message ahead. But I've been able to orange pill almost everyone around me, especially those who like me, my friends, my family. And so several hundred people actually. And also even convincing colleagues in parliament from different parties. And what I try to do is just to understand where are the people coming from, what are their concerns, what are their worldviews, and then because Bitcoin is so broad in addressing so many different kind of problems and issues, I can find something for almost every worldview. But the easiest ones are for those who want to dox themselves on any unvaccinated, COVID unvaccinated people here. I find them the easiest because they experienced like how the state can be very aggressive against their individual rights, and then it's quite easy to imagine. Okay, maybe you get debanked, maybe you get fined. There were countries talking about fines against unvaccinated, about just these extreme measures. So once you were in that position and you felt like almost all of society is against you and the state is against you, then you should really realize that you need Bitcoin.
Tere and Martin, you are doing the grassroots work at the parliament, but what else?
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about taking the kind of like the mythical aspect out of the whole thing, and I understand like it used to be pretty hard some years ago, and there were like 5 neckbeards looking down upon other people and telling them like you don't understand this and you shouldn't, and it's our thing and everything, when we should actually embrace everybody and tell them that okay, it's not that hard. It's like owning any other kind of assets, and it's easy, it's reliable. You shouldn't fear it any more than normal investment instruments and everything. And I think when we demystify it, the people will accept it.
Martin?
I think that from a Bitcoiner's point of view, you need to tone from and the communications point of view, you need to tone down the anarcho language a little, because it doesn't help the cause. And then the other one is that you would be proactive in a regulation related to intermediaries, because that will probably save you as a community from further blow-ups that we have had around Bitcoin, or as the general public feels that is related to Bitcoin. So I think these two things would sort of be helpful for the cause of having a reasonable dialogue with all the legacy people.
And Jaakko?
Well, most people who read the mainstream media have some kind of negative connotation about the word Bitcoin. Like personally, I've been in conversations where I can talk about how Bitcoin works in the energy markets and also as a monetary unit, and everyone thinks it's cool and very interesting. But if I start the conversation by mentioning that this is Bitcoin, there's laughter and dismissal of it. So maybe getting the narrative to a more a positive way would help a lot.
Yeah, and that's a very, very well put, because we see that the challenge in the big picture things, it's not just technical or just purely this kind of educational that people are not able to learn, but it's also practical framing that how Bitcoin is perceived. So this is also the reason that I want to finish the panel and ask from each one of you that what are you personally going to do in the next year to drive Bitcoin forward on your respective forums. So let's start from Jaakko.
Well, integrating Bitcoin into the energy sector is probably the most obvious one from my side.
Great. Samuel?
So actually, Parliament passed a bill that said the government needs to study the potential of Bitcoin mining. And so I now try to bring companies from the Bitcoin mining industry together with people from the government, from the administration, to help learn what kind of concrete examples there are.
Tere?
Just raise awareness by talking to people in the parliament, in podcasts, in all kinds of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And Martin?
Yeah, well, it's exactly the same. To raise awareness, have a level-headed talk with key decision makers.
You invited me 2 times to Rahapodi, so next time to Paasi Podi. So yes. let's make that happen.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we are at the end of our time. Great discussion. Thank you very much for Jaakko, Samuel, Tere, and Martin. And I encourage you each to catch up, come talk afterwards. I hope that Martin and Tere have also time to be here for a small period of time. And thank you so much for the people the audience that came to learn. And thank you so much for a great discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much.